Talk Shoe. Recorded live.
Welcome to the Thursday Night's Triumph Over Targeting podcast. I'm your moderator, Ella. Tonight we have another very special guest. Her name is Val Guillaume. I'm very happy to have her on this evening. A couple of things. If you're new to the call, please stay on and we will get you some additional support, some Talk Shoe podcast numbers, and some helpful links and websites. This is a solutions and educational-based podcast, but the views and opinions of my guests are not necessarily my own personal views and opinions. My goal is that everyone can obtain something out of tonight, especially a feeling of empowerment. If you have any suggestions, comments, questions, or especially if you are in need of additional support, please don't hesitate to email me at tiangel2016@gmail.com. Again, that's tiangel2016@gmail.com. So, Val, again, I want to say thank you so much for coming.
No problem. I'm glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
And then I guess, we'll go back. I understand. I know you're an author. I know you've worked in fashion. You're a blogger, and you wrote a book. I don't know how many books you wrote, and you're a human rights activist. That's the most important thing, I believe. So is there anything else you want to add to that?
Well, I want to correct it. I'm not into fashion, but one of my daughters, my younger daughter, is into fashion design.
Okay.
So I promote her a lot on my Google Plus page, and I also mention her on my blog. So that's probably where you got the little confusion there. But yes, I am an author. I've written and published a few books, mainly children books, but I also have a poetry book that I published before that, and of course I have my blog.
Okay. And so I guess one of the first questions I should ask you is, when did you start to, because I understand you're a targeted individual, when, yes, where, and why do you think you became targeted?
Well, let's see, I started my blog in 2008, but before that, I was kind of going after some local city officials, I'd say, and it had to do with my co-op that I was living in. There was a lot of corruption going on, and I was going after some of them, and I was having them audited, and I saw the response from the local government, how corrupt they were. So that inspired me to expose some of those stuff on my blog. And so that's one of the reasons why I started my blog. And from that, of course, that got me the attention of the government. And because I personally believe that my targeting is coming directly from the government, from the police and from the intelligence agencies, CSIS. And in that sense, I'm talking the Canadian government, for those who don't know that I live in Canada.
When you started to realize that something was going on and that, what were some of the first signs? I guess I should backtrack just a little bit. What did you notice that kind of signaled to you that something was going on?
Well, like I said, I was getting a lot of harassment from where I was living at the time, and there were a lot of unusual activities, some of which I've later found out from other TIs. There's electronic harassment, noise, not just ordinary noise, just a specific noise, like they would just, carry out noise harassment and attack against me pretty late in the night, and it was intended to, deprive me of sleep, and also just to upset me and to just cause me harm. So you had that, and I also noticed that once I started doing my blog, I was now being put under surveillance by the police openly. I was being followed in their cruisers. They would follow me. They would park across from my apartment, and they would carry out illegal surveillance of me, because under Canadian law, at some point you have to let the person that you're carrying out the surveillance on know that you're carrying out the surveillance. But that has never happened in all of these years.
Right. And so what was your initial response? How did you react? What did you Did you go online and find information that kind of paralleled your own experiences?
Well, I didn't really call it targeted individual at that time. I didn't call myself that because I didn't know what that was at that time. I just knew that I got the attention, the unwanted attention of the government once I started my blog, once I became a blogger and I started talking about the police and I started talking about local corrupt city officials that I was dealing with on a regular basis. And I just had this in me to expose the corruption that I was seeing, whether it was directed at me personally or that I see happening in society. I just wanted to write about it.
I see. Yeah, that makes sense. So you wrote about it, and then
I wrote about it on my blog. Yes, I all the time. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't write so frequently now on my blog, but initially I used to write more often.
Oh, I'm sure. It's been years now you've had your blog, so I understand how it kind of ebbs and flows. Who did you reach out to when you realized all this was going on? Who did you reach out for help to?
Actually, as you know, within the targeted community, there really isn't anyone that you can reach out to because part of their program is to isolate you.
Yes.
And so you have this, you basically have to deal with this on your own. As I said, later on in doing more research in regards to targeted individuals, I realized that this is a common tactic, isolating the target and just carrying out all kinds of attacks against them. So there wasn't anyone that I could turn to that would understand my situation as far as family or friends or anyone like that.
So what about officials? I mean, I know you're not supposed to, but did you even try? Because initially I went to the FBI, I went to the police, I actually did in the beginning try to get help.
No, because as I said, I'm one of those people that believe that, the targeting is coming from the government directly. For instance, when it first started, and I would try to take legal actions against some of the people that were carrying it out, and this was being done by the management of my co-op, and so there were times when I took them to court and tried to lay charges, and the charges were being blocked, and I couldn't get anywhere. So I could just see the conspiracy involving the courts and involving the people who were carrying this out, and it was just a big conspiracy. So no, I couldn't go to the authorities at all.
Yeah, I think because I was always trying to find an individual, thinking that talking to an individual might help, and trying to get people. But, it was a little different. So I can see your hesitancy, knowing that it's the government right away. But still, even when the government's involved, sometimes I think you might be able to reach out to an individual who's not. And I think that's kind of like my thought.
It wasn't just the government. The government were part of it. It was also being the gang stalking and the targeting was also being carried out by these very rich people. Like for instance, the company that managed my co-op, they would get people in the building to target me. And they would carry out targeting in that way. And when I mentioned taking them to court, those are the people that I was taking to court, the people who were actually managing my co-op, and even some city officials that were linked to them. So, but they were behind the targeting in the building because obviously they viewed me as a troublemaker. I was a member of the co-op, but they viewed me as a troublemaker because I was, in their view, stirring up a lot of trouble with them, pointing out, things that they were doing that they shouldn't be doing. And so when I said that the targeting is coming from the government, they're part of it, but it's not 100% coming from the government, at least not initially.
Mm-hmm.
So there were regular people that were carrying out gang stalking, and it's similar to other situations that I've read about. People would pass by my apartment and punch the wall, or they would take a hammer and just bang, 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 or, electronic harassment. I will give you one example. I remember at one time I called the police in regards to some of the stuff that was going on in regards to the harassment. And I was watching on the monitor, and I saw the two police enter the building. And I thought they were just going to come directly to see me, but they didn't do that. What they did was they went upstairs, and all of the harassment continued. And they didn't know that I was watching them. And so I called back the division, and I said, was there another call to this building? Because, I saw the police came and they didn't come to me, and this is still going on. And they said, no, yours was the only call that came to us. So, no, they're not there to see anyone else. I said, well, they haven't come to see me yet, and I'm still going through this. So I think what happened is that they went upstairs and they just joined what was going on up there. And if you know my relationship with the police and talking about them and exposing some of the stuff that they've been doing, it's not surprising that they would do that.
Yeah, not at all. It doesn't sound like it.
Yeah.
So there's not really, you're kind of doing this all on your own. Have you worked with other activists?
Yes, I have, but I haven't joined other groups or things like that, but I do know other activists, and they've given me some of their support and things like that. But as far as my activism, most of it is online through my blog.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have a really great one, too. How do you protect your family? Does your family, are they aware on any level of what's going on? I mean, of course you have a blog, so they know some of it. Do they know the full extent?
As far as my family, I have 3 grown children, and they're out there living their lives, and I've seen some stuff like, as I mentioned to you earlier, my younger daughter that does the fashion design, not me, and I noticed that her view counts are blocked on YouTube because they do that a lot with me, and in my case they do that to demoralize me. To make it look as if no one is watching my videos or, things like that, but I noticed the same thing happening to her, and I noticed, little things that I noticed, maybe as a mother,
Right.
But the full extent of it, I'm not aware. They haven't said anything to me that they're experiencing anything similar to what I've gone through.
Right. Okay,
Yeah.
I see. What shielding do you use, and what kind of precautionary measures do you take?
Well, none really. If the attack gets too much, then I will write about it, and I'm not shy about naming names. So they kind of know how far that they want to go with me, because I will just, like, if I think something is happening and it's coming from a particular person, I will just go and write about it, and I will name names. So they don't want to have this exposed. Even the people that they use, a lot of time neighbors or, people who are in your immediate vicinity, if they use those people, it's all secretive. This is a secretive operation that they're carrying out, So giving them exposure, that's the last thing that they want.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
And so since you've been in the community for a while, what changes have you seen during this time as far as kind of the momentum of the movement, and I just want to know your observations, what you think of what's going on right now, and what you've seen evolve or devolve, and whatever your opinion may be, as far as exposing this program.
Well, I've seen that there's a lot more people who are aware of what's going on. There's a lot of information out there on the internet. There are shows like yours. that you have a lot of distinguished guests on your shows, and they talk about what's really happening. A lot of whistleblowers, a lot of people who are professionals who are aware that a lot of this is coming directly from the government, whichever government it is, and that people are not making it up. But at the same time, there are some people out there that, I just can't tell where they're coming from with this targeting. But the majority of people who say they're being targeted, they should be believed.
Yes, I agree so much. Okay, so then let's see what else we can discuss here. What do you think is being success? What do you think is helping with the movement? You mentioned the shows, and what about letter writing? Does that seem to work? Do you get any responses at all from letter writing? Do you find that to be a way to handle this, or to go about trying to expose this? What's your opinions? What can we do as targeted individuals to kind of get the word out? In your opinion?
I think as targeted individuals, we need to come together and to get the information out. Because, as I said, one of the main thing about this community is the isolation. So targeted individuals, each of them are isolated. They're isolated from each other. They're isolated from, the society at large because of the things that they go through. So what I would like to see is more of a, I know there's a lot of organizations out there already, a lot of groups out there in regards to targeted individuals, but there isn't, at least I haven't seen any that has that kind of clout that can take it a step further and say, get more protection for targeted individuals as far as taking legal actions that are necessary. Because the things that are happening to targeted individuals are very real. They're being harmed in a lot of ways, whether physically or psychologically, and in many cases they don't have anywhere to turn. They either have to deal with this on their own and try to, take the routes that are available to them, and a lot of times they don't get anywhere. But what I do see happening now is that there are a lot of more professional people coming out and giving more credibility to it.
Oh, I agree.
So, yes, more credibility to it. So based on that, there is a possibility in the near future that, more action can be done to help the targeted community.
And I think part of that might be, Val, and I mean, I analyze things a little bit too much, but I'm wondering if, because there's a little more of a platform now for targeted individuals and we're not like completely laughed at, although there's still that, these people seem a little bit mentally unstable, there's still like this natural curiosity now. I'm wondering if because of the people who are speaking out are a little more credible, so people are feeling as if like, people who have like jobs to worry about and things like that, I think they're feeling a little more confident in about coming forward and sharing what's going on with them. I think before, maybe 10 years ago, it might have been hard for a person who has credentials and professional background to maybe speak out, because it sounds like to me from, speaking with long-term activists that they didn't have the terminology and nobody, there was an educational process that occurred in the past decade or so, and so people can now come across more unified at least. It's still, from my opinion, it seems still very across the board, but so maybe just because there's a more confidence in what's going on a little bit more, I think maybe people are feeling like it's okay to speak out. Look, these other credible people are speaking out. Bill Binney is even going to bat for us. So I think people doing that, it's going to get more and more people that are not, maybe didn't come forward, didn't speak up. Maybe more people will feel a little more confident now because they're not, it's being viewed at a little differently. Of course, there's that splitting, where there are people that think it's just a bunch of mentally unstable people collaborate. But I also think when I talk to people and when I'm out, now that I have the language, because when I first tried to explain this to people, people thought there was something wrong with me. But now that I have the verbiage and I've had a good education, and I go out with people like Terry Brewer, and even speaking with Matthew, Aaron, and different people like that, it's you can speak with confidence, and people believe us. I remember working with a gentleman who was doing activism, and I was making phone calls trying to get him on radio shows and different things like that, and everybody believed us. It was just amazing because there is the knowledge base, a shared knowledge base, and there's some evidence too. There's things to back up what we're saying. There's affidavits.
Sorry. It's not. Sorry to cut you. It's not just the knowledge base. It's the fact that more and more people are coming out. It's happening to more and more people. That's what's happening. So, but personally, I would like to see it go a step further than that, because this is the gross human rights abuse that's being carried out against the population. This is what's happening. So personally, I would like to see the human rights governing bodies that are out there, whether it's the UN or the courts or whatever, deal with this matter, because it's a crime. It's a crime that's being perpetrated against citizens, and it shouldn't be. It shouldn't. It's a crime. So the people who are coming out now, the professionals who are coming out now, these are people who have a conscience and say, well, this is happening, it shouldn't be happening. But I want to see go a step further than that. I want to see actions taken that would protect the targeted individual community.
Mm-hmm.
And in order for that to happen, we have to have some kind of strong forces back in this community, because right now it's still being regarded as people who are delusional and have mental issues and things like that, when it's a very, very real problem. It's crimes that's being committed against them. And in my view, as you already know, this is coming from the government. This is not just gang stalking by individual, because even if it's a group of individuals, most of the time they're being recruited by authorities. Yes. And people don't connect the link. People think it's just some people that wants to get to you. It's too organized for that.
Mm-hmm.
It's too organized for that. And the stories that are coming out in regards to the injury that some people have, regular people don't have the means to do that. It has to be coming from the government, the military, the police, the intelligence agency. They're the ones who are behind it.
Yeah, that seems to be, a majority of people believe that in the community. But it is hard. It really is hard when you don't have absolute evidence. But in your case, it's more obvious. But in other cases, you wonder.
Ella, we do have evidence. The technology that they're using against the population, like microwave energy technology, or voice to skull. Where would the average person get that from? Where would they get that technology from? Obviously, that's coming from the government, these black operations that they're carrying out against the population to see basically how they would respond or how far they can go with it. Like, we're just like guinea pigs.
Right. Yeah,
without any protection, really.
Right. I always just wondered and suspected that maybe on the black market, some of this might be available, but I could be wrong.
If you have the means to get it, if you have the means to get it, but the average person do not. So I can't point the finger at them.
Right. It wouldn't be typical. It would be people in a powerful position or have connections.
Exactly. That's what I mean. Yes. If you have the means to get it. Yes.
Okay.
And then they now go and they recruit their foot soldiers to carry out these attacks, but the focus shouldn't be on the people, the perps who are carrying out the attack. The focus should be on the people who are hiring them to carry out those attacks.
Yeah.
It's very well organized.
Well, I hope you don't mind. There is a gentleman who I mentioned earlier who is from Canada, and we had a discussion before you coming on. Would you mind? Would you like to take questions from the audience?
Yes, I don't mind.
Okay, great. And this is a man I work with. We have the organization. He's kind of the person who came up with Freedom for Targeted Individuals, the organization. And, again, he's a fellow Canadian. So he knows a lot of the...
You mentioned he was from Vancouver?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Here he is. Hold on just a moment. Hi, Matthew.
Hi.
Hi.
Ella, how well do you know me? I am not Canadian. I lived in Vancouver, but I am a U.S. citizen.
I know that, but you still live there. You're an American Canadian.
I guess becoming a Canadian is very easy, right?
I guess so.
Hi, Valerie. It's very nice to meet you. Thank you for coming on the show.
Yes, I don't mind. This is a good show. It's very educational, and Ella, I said this to her before the show started, that she's doing such a great job in, bringing awareness to what's going on in the targeted individual community, the TI community.
Yes. I would also like to thank you for your blog posts and video posts. When I had fled Canada back to the U.S. and was trying to sort things out and figure out how I was going to try to document what happened, I saw some of your postings, and there was one posting in particular where you were asking other victims in Canada to reach out to you. I tried to do it at the time, but I think you were maybe swamped with email or something. So it's nice to finally talk to you.
Yeah.
I will tell you briefly, just a brief synopsis. I was targeted in Vancouver because of the proximity of my apartment to 1190 Hornby Street, which is a medical building where I saw essentially a large group of people engaging in harassment of all kinds of downtown residents. And some of the harassment was coming my way, but I don't think I was particularly targeted at first until I confronted those people. And then the targeting ramped up, and yes, some Vancouver police participated in the targeting, and that's why your video was so meaningful to me, because you were talking about the police also doing that to you, and also some paramedics with Providence Healthcare. And it turned out that the HR department for Providence Healthcare in Vancouver is located in that same medical building where I saw people partying and using harassment techniques and devices. I witnessed this all hours of the night in this non-residential building, which actually happens to be contiguous with one of the downtown offices of Immigration Canada. I'm not sure if there's a connection there, but in any case, I wanted to...
Can I ask you a question? How long have you been targeted for? How long has this been going on?
The targeting started the day I moved into that apartment, and the targeting ended the day that I fled Vancouver. So in my case, it did not follow me. I mean, they followed me across the border for sure. They followed me all the way to my destination in Seattle. But that night, because I had assistance from my family, and they didn't I mean my cousins, they didn't fully understand what was happening, but they helped me go underground essentially. And so from that night, I have not been targeted since then. So it started in 2013.
It sounds to me like you had just one incident of targeting. Am I correct? With that particular group of people, was it just one incident that you had, or is it a long-standing issue with you?
No, it was one very prolonged and intense incident. So it went on for 2 years at a very low level in that apartment. But then when I confronted them, then it was they pulled the curtain back. And that's when I saw the extent of the harassment network in Vancouver, and that's when they pulled out I still think they did potentially near lethal attacks on me, and so for 6 weeks then I was hit with directed energy nonstop wherever I went in Vancouver, and it was a situation that forced me to abandon everything. I felt I had no choice, but I did manage to remove some, what I think will become very significant physical evidence from my apartment. I think my apartment was rigged up, and I just happened to move into the wrong apartment, which was essentially, this is my belief, my allegation, my conclusion is that basically I moved into an apartment that was right across the alley from essentially a center of this harassment, where the gang stalkers kind of were managed essentially, in 1190 Hornby Street, right in downtown Vancouver. So it was one bout of targeting, but it was 2.5 years, and the last 6 weeks of it was enough to force me. I think I'm a strong, courageous, and person who can stand up to a lot, and I had to flee for my life in those situations.
Were you able to identify the group or the people in the group and maybe say try to take legal actions against them, or did you just?
I do know some of the people. I have photographs. I have some very compelling evidence. And when the harassment network was turned on me big time, it turned out that some people that I knew as friends even were participating in this harassment. So, as you know, legal action is still difficult in the climate that we're in. But I would like to let you know, because you're a Canadian, and I will give you the details. I assume you and Ella are in email contact?
We have our contact.
Okay,
yeah, I have
okay.
our contact, and she has mine, yes.
Okay, so I'll just say in general terms right now that after I left Canada, and I documented everything that happened to me in a long report, and I sent that to officials in Canada, and then I came to find out. I just happened to, through contacts, get in touch with someone who is from British Columbia, and she has independently organized a class action lawsuit for people who were targeted in Canada. And this is not, many people talk about different legal actions, and I have to say, among TI legal actions, this is one of the best and most powerful that I know of. And this person has high integrity, and she's very trustworthy, and she has some members of Parliament and the Attorney General's office are taking an interest in this situation, and even a former Deputy Prime Minister. And so I would like to put you in touch with her, and I would.
What's her name?
Her name. I'll just tell you her first name. I'm not sure how much she wants. Her first name is Mary.
Mary. Well, if she started a class action, that means there's nothing more private about it anymore. It's it's now part of the court records, right? So it's
I think
very private though. It's I don't know. She just seems very private. But I think Val, you would. I just have the utmost respect for her. She's an author as well. I think you guys.
Well, let me just answer. You're correct, but
That's just something that I would like to know more about. Maybe write about it on my blog, because that would be doing a helpful job for the TI community. If someone actually taking a class action lawsuit against.
Right. Oh yeah. So but let me just say this: that this is in the early stages. This is a long process. It's in the early stages of being formed, which is why I don't think there are no court records yet. But the promising thing is that what I have heard is that the Attorney General's office is assigning a lawyer to help the plaintiff's TIs. So it has a very promising movement, and I will send you information on this through Ella, and I'll put you in touch with that person. And I'm just going to also encourage you to consider joining and adding your own affidavit to the lawsuit.
I'm looking forward to getting the information from you. It sounds interesting.
Yeah.
I'm actually surprised that you mentioned the Attorney General is, showed an interest in that, because usually government officials don't even recognize the TI community. Like, who are these people? So I'm really looking forward to seeing some kind of documentation on what's happening in regards to what this woman is doing.
Right, and I think it'd be best for her to communicate that directly with you. But my impression is that this kind of crime is being facilitated by people that are misusing government positions and criminal elements in the government. But there are also a lot of people in government who care about society and rights who don't know about this. So it's secretive and patchy. Even in the government elements that are facilitating it are only corrupt elements in my view. So there are good people that we can get on our side.
Of course. That's why there are so many whistleblowers coming out now and talking about it and sharing their information with the general public and saying, I know this is happening because, I work here and I know I know these black operations and that it's being funded by the government and things like that. So, yeah, it's good when we see people from the government, within the government, or in high position coming out and, talking about what's happening, what's involved.
Yes, and the last thing I want to say about it is that I think she's taking a very intelligent approach, and that is because it's so hard to go after the actual perpetrators. The strategy of this suit is to focus on pointing the finger at the police for not assisting people when they go, because even in my case, when I had to call for the police, when I was literally chased with a van that had a very dangerous basically radiation weapon in the back of it, and they chased me and they incapacitated me, and I called for the police. Guess what happened? And they didn't even listen to my story. They put me straight into a psychiatric hospital, which is what crystallized my feeling of violation and anger. And in that moment, I said, I will never, ever stop fighting against this.
They are the authorities, and every time you approach the authorities, whether it's the police or the court, you have to have some kind of evidence, otherwise they don't listen. They only move on evidence, right? So a lot of times the evidence that the targeted individual has, they either ignore it or they don't think it's sufficient to move with, whether through the courts or whatever. As I mentioned to Ella earlier, when the targeting started with me, I had gone through the courts. I'd gone to the JP's office numerous times to lay charges against the people that were carrying it out, and it got nowhere, absolutely nowhere, because they needed more evidence.
Right.
So I'm saying it's one thing to say that this is happening to me and things like that, and you may have some evidence, but it a lot of time it's not sufficient to really get these people legally, whether to sue them or charge them or anything like that.
Right. This particular case was me not approaching the police in any kind of a standard way. I was pinned down and fearing for my life, which is why, the perpetrators were there in the distance, in this park. It was, and I was just calling for the police because I was in fear of my life at the time. But so they basically they staged that. That's how they wanted it to play out. But I would just encourage you, when I pass this information on, just get in touch with Mary, and then you can have a chat with her and see, get more direct information about this legal action. And there is some sign that some people in the federal government are taking an interest. Maybe the issue has grown to a point where it's big enough that it's becoming an uncomfortable issue for them.
Yeah, you know what? I have to disagree. I haven't seen that because I still write about the corruption that I see happening in this country. There may be some people in the government, you know, as anywhere else, who are good people, and I've seen a few myself. But generally speaking, there's a lot of corruption going on within this government, as it in Ella's country. It's just something that it's an abuse of power. It's some people want to call it police state, whatever. It's the government having this power over the people and carrying out actions against them, against their will, and it's secretive. It's illegal, and you know, unfortunately, it's going to take a lot to solve this. But the main issue is the corruption and the cover-up.
Right. I have no disagreement with that. But anyway, I think it's worth for you to at least get in touch with Mary and see what she has to say, because she can explain better. She knows more about what's going on.
Yes, I would definitely like to speak with her, you know, especially from a writer's point of view. Not necessarily that she can help me, because I think you mentioned that she's on the West Coast and I'm on the East Coast. I'm in Ontario. So there's like a jurisdiction issue there, you know. So maybe she can help the people out there. That would be good. You know, I would love to speak with her.
Yeah,
okay,
I think
okay.
Yeah, just as a person, you know, just a person to maybe connect with, I could see that you would enjoy knowing her. She's just a really wonderful person. Lovely, yeah. Regardless of what happens.
Thank you again. Thank you again, Valerie. It's great. I'm glad that you came on the call. And thank you, Ella.
Thanks, Matthew. Okay. Do you have any questions, Matthew? And do you want to ask her a question?
No, I think other people can ask. I just wanted to say hi and pass on that information, but I'll just listen to the other questions.
Okay.
Well, thank you for the information, Matthew.
Okay.
We'll
Thank
follow up on it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Valerie.
Have a good night.
Okay, so *8, and so what's going to happen when you *8? It's going to notify me that you'd like to speak, and so when I get to you, you will hear a prompt letting you know that you're being unmuted. So when you *8, you're not immediately unmuted. You'll just have to wait for me to come to you, and as I said, you'll hear a prompt, and you'll know.
All right.
Okay, I'm going to start from the top, and let's see, *8. If you have a question for Val. Okay, I know some of these notifications are from earlier, so hopefully the people are still there. New York, I'm going to come to you first. Hi, New York.
Hi.
Hi.
We should go on to the next person. I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem. Don't worry. Okay, so I'm going to come down. Here. Okay, North Carolina, I'm going to come to you. Hi, North Carolina. Perp, I think it was Perp. Perp was little problems on the line. I heard a problem on my line, too, earlier.
Yeah.
Okay, it happens. Okay, especially in our world. New Hampshire, I'm going to come to you. Hi, New Hampshire. You might have your hand muted. New Hampshire.
Oh, hello?
Yes, hi.
Hi. My name is
Hi,
Tammy.
do you have a question for our guest?
Yeah, I've been getting like a chemical type of attack. I don't know what would cause that. Wherever I go, I smell like a really strong laundry detergent smell. It's very, very strong and makes me sick, feeling to my stomach. I can't get away from it. When I leave my apartment, when I was in my apartment, I had to leave my apartment. I'm staying with friends because it was so bad. It used to just be when I was sleeping that I'd smell it. Then I started smelling it during the day, and now it's all the time, and I have to wear like a surgical mask all the time.
Right.
But I can't wear it. I'm having a hard time breathing now. It's progressively getting worse on my health. I get pains in my organs on my body, especially my kidneys. But no matter where I go, even at my friends, I smell it. It's right when I take off my surgical mask, I can smell it. Otherwise, I acclimate to it. But I always have a hard time breathing, even when I go outside now. It's just I can always catch a scent of it, and even on cell phones, I have to have this on speaker because it affects me. I can smell it. So I don't know exactly what that is, but I've had burn marks on my face from the phone and from the television sitting in front of it. That's gone away somewhat. But I'll feel the heat going on top of my head and on my chest mostly. I've lost my short-term memory a lot. It's deteriorating. Those are mainly the things that happen to me. And I smoke, but I can't really smoke anymore because it's just a horrible. It feels like this coldness going down my throat, and my heart races, and I can't breathe anymore. So I don't.
Yeah. Go ahead, Val.
Yeah, my question to this caller is, what's your relationship with the people around you, your neighbors, or even the people who manage the building?
These are my neighbors. These are people that live across town from me. And
how would they have access to your apartment?
They don't have access to my apartment. I've met them outside
you
of my
that
apartment.
It's coming from. I'm sorry. You're saying that it's people across town?
Yeah, and I smelled it in when I go to a group that I go to too. In there, I smell it everywhere I go. Everywhere I go, I can smell it, and it's like it's affecting my lungs. I've actually gotten tests done on my X-rays on my lungs. There's nothing wrong with them because I've gone to the emergency room so many times with shortness, like labored, and my heart racing. And
you mentioned that this is something that's happening in your apartment, correct?
Right. And then it started turning into wherever I went, even in my car, even in other people's cars, I can smell it. And it's like I would imagine a chemical, but it's coming from cars, even cell phones, the smell. And it makes me sick, and I can feel it when it hits my body. I just feel it going through my bloodstream. Whatever it is, it hits my bloodstream. And it's almost like it's from electronics, like the TV or whatever is like the lights, anything.
Do you mind if we come back to you, because it sounds a little bit like a support question, not a question for Val, and want to be able to give you my full attention on it. But I would suggest offhand having an air filterer. Have an air filterer.
That's the problem. I got an air purifier, and then it blows out that same smell.
Yeah, that's a very unique situation. I can't say I've heard anything of like that. Val, do you have any suggestions? Or
I was about to direct that to you because I didn't. The question I was having for this caller would be, if it's a chemical that's coming in her apartment, either comes through the vent or someone puts it there. But how
can they put it?
I'm trying to find out what the source is.
That's what but I think it's coming from the electronics, like different, like electronic harassment. It's coming from, because I put like, when I was at my mom's in the spare bedroom sleeping there, I put different things like the iron, the lamp, anything that you can plug in. I put it all in the closet. Then I opened the closet once to get a towel out of the closet where I put all those appliances in there, and they smelled. The appliances smelled like that smell. So
I'm
it's
sorry,
coming from the
I
electronic.
don't know how to answer that for you. I really don't.
But when the interview's over, we'll have more of an open call, and then maybe somebody might know something. But, there might be the possibility that they can create the smell somehow through carrier waves or microwaves or somehow inducing that smell. Who knows? It's just speculation. But there might be other people who know more than me on this topic. There's a lot of people that are really into this and involved in this topic, and as I mentioned, know far more than me. So why don't you hold tight, and we'll come back to you, okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so I'm going to try another North Carolina. Hopefully we'll have a good clean line here. I don't think so. Okay, and again, *8 if you'd like to ask a question. Dawn, I'm going to come up to you.
Hi, Ella.
Hi, Donna.
Hi, Ella. I really wanted to comment on what that lady was saying, but it sounds like you want to wait till later.
I mean, it's okay if you want to give it, if you want to.
No, I would like to comment on it. I know someone that lost their home over that very thing, and it followed them to 3 different states. This person threw away all her clothes and 2 couches, overstuffed chair, beautiful linens, anything that had fabric on it, because that smell was in everything. And the way that this lady was getting it was through some neighbors that moved in and put a huge vent on the back of their mobile home facing their bedroom. And they would cover the smell of these chemicals with fabric softener. You can even this lady had all her geraniums taken down to the stems and laid out in the back of this other woman's truck. And she read online that you can carry different chemicals like sarin, different levels of it, which is deadly. It can make you very sick to dying. And a lot of it's carried through geranium juice. And these things go into the environment, and people around you think you're crazy because it is blending with the environment so well, such as herbicides, pesticides, any type of gardening poisons. They also just go into the atmosphere. There is this chemical deprivation. I don't know the exact wording on it, but it can be carried in off of a beam, and I can tell there's a huge difference in the real chemical thing and in that electronic deprivation beam. After a while, you start being able to tell the difference. But in my case, I've been around places, and I don't mean low-income places. I mean some of the best places, and they were doing the drug thing, and people have tried to tell me otherwise. And I just know that I was a perfect setup to look crazy in case anything happened. So that's one of the reasons I left my home. It incensed me so bad one night before I knew anything at all. I didn't know. I was very naive. I was out with my hose trying to wash the air around my mobile home. And then that cold thing you were talking about, it is the consuming of the air, the ozone around you. It's like ether. It can be other different things. A man came into my home one time, and said that it smelled like a morgue in there. It was a beautiful sunny day with the windows open. Smelled terrible from all that stuff. He said it smelled like a morgue and that there were some chemicals present that he knew of and some chemicals present that he didn't know of, and that when he first walked in, by the way, he was blind and worked for Hazmat and different places like that. He said his skin burned and was freezing at the same time.
If I may interject, Ella, can I?
Yes, feel free. Thank you, Val.
My question would be, why would, if she believes it's from the ozone, why would it just affect her and no one else around her?
Yeah, that's my question.
Well, I'm not so sure it wasn't affecting other people. I've been in places where that was going on, and they were wearing oxygen masks to sleep at night.
Oh, so other people in your case, yeah.
And me, I lived in a very strategically placed mobile home across from a huge field of trees, and by the opening of the park where people could see everybody coming in and out. And in my case, the people wanted my home. I thought that from the very start. And then it got so insane that I didn't know what was going on. And then toward the end, I knew that that's what they were doing. They were trying to drive me out of my home. So people looking on at people. Oh, and one other thing that happened. I went to the police again, Ojai, California police, and I was telling them what was going on, and he started writing down the court date that I was going to court the next day to fight a restraining order from finding ways that they were putting smoke in my house and all sorts of things. I had pictures, everything. And he started taking down all the numbers. And when I got to court, they threw my case out because I had 4 beautiful references that the people needed to be standing there, which I have been told since then that doesn't really have to be. But there were 2 of them, the two units that were perping me from the back. So just another way to set you up and discredit you. And you really have to watch out.
Do you know who this may be coming from? Because in my experience, there's always a reason behind the attack. Okay, it's usually coming from. There's always a reason behind the attack. Okay, it's not random.
No, I don't think so either. Mine was not random. Mine was definite hate crime, and it had been going on for a while as I look back. And
what do you think? What do you think the reasons were that you were being attacked in that way?
They wanted my home for one, and there were. I'd been alone by myself, no man, no nothing, for 14 years. I had 2 businesses thriving. I was working on building my life up. I was buying my own home. I owned my own car. I had 2 growing businesses, perfect taxes, perfect credit. They took me down to nothing. They took me down to living in my car with my 2 cats. I probably wouldn't have had to lived in my car, but I couldn't place my 2 cats at that time.
Yeah. I think my question is going to be to Ella. Wouldn't you say that most of the stories that you hear about targeted individuals, that they seem to believe that there's a specific purpose behind the attack, like it's coming from a specific group of people that they know, or they have an idea where it could be coming from, or
What happened to me was that I knew it was a hate crime. I mean, it went back all the way to 92 when my son was killed by a drunk driver. I had flowers from my garden, my mother's garden, on the back steps where I work. And I came out to go to the cemetery, and somebody had placed that stuff they grow oleander, and it's very poisonous. They took my flowers and put that there. And I know who did it. I know I know who started it. I think I was sold. I think I've been sold more than I don't know how many times. I know that men have tried to get me to be with them in my desperation, and that just made me want to go to my car even more. It makes me sick. If you could see what I've been through and what I've seen and who I've met that I thought was so this, that, and wonderful, you wouldn't even believe the people that are into this stuff. If you're in the way of someone's agenda, drugs, business, a people thing, whatever, you are very much in line to get on one of these lists. Just don't be in the way of anything, and or don't have somebody that has the ability to put you on a list just not like you all of a sudden. They may not even hardly know you, but they want to put you on one of these lists. So, but about the chemicals, I was living with my very, very best friend, like a mother, sister, mentor, before I came 800 miles away. And they were driving by her place with these little bags, little plastic bags tied up with chemicals in them, and they'd throw them against her home, and they'd poof. Oh, and the neighbor next door was doing that every time I'd walk outside. And that chemical, you cannot even be in the room. So that's a whole other story.
I'm sorry, I don't have an answer for you. I don't know if Ella has an answer for you. This is not something that, from my experience, what my experience has been that there's always a motive behind the attacks, and usually, you can. There are people behind it. Okay, you either have to do something or, to get them to turn on you like that. I have no idea what this caller's experience been like.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Well, I know somebody sure was holding a grudge a long time on me, because I walk with God. God's my whole thing, everything about me, and what this program has done to me, it's unbelievable.
Sorry, Donna. Yeah, and Val, I wanted to answer your question. Most people suspect who's behind it. Very few people can have evidence to prove who's behind it, but they have strong feelings because of the timelines and different things like that. But there are people I've spoken to that suspect they're generational, like part of some kind of MK Ultra, and some people that think it's experimentation, and but most people typically have an idea what agency, what police force, or whatever the case may be, had put them in the program.
Well, I guess my question then, Ella, would be, why would they go after this particular person? For what reason? What have they done? What are they doing to cause them to come after?
In my case, I told you, I'm a whistleblower. They were cooking drugs behind my home, and the police, they were not on board, and I know why, because there's a precedent of a motorcycle club that pays a lot of money.
So you're saying that they were putting drugs behind your home, so you complained to the authorities?
They were cooking them. They were cooking them, and if somebody tells you, oh, they can't do that, everybody know they can cook the drugs out of the what do you call it, the back of the car, that part. They can cook them right out of their car. So no, this is and not only that, but I know for a fact it was witchcraft, just with some of the weirdness that was going on. And
there are people, Val, who think it has something to do with that. People have various opinions, for sure. Well, Dawn, I'm going to go ahead and put you back on mute, and I'm going to go to the next caller, and hang in there.
I'd just like to say one thing. Be very, very careful when you go to the police, and if you are going to the court, don't tell them that you're going to go to a court hearing or anything. They were there before I even got there the next day.
Yeah.
Yeah, that we know that part.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Donna. Thanks for the advice. Hang in there, sweetie. Okay, West Oklahoma, I'm going to come to you. Hi, Oklahoma.
Hi, Ella. How are you?
Doing all right, considering all.
Good. Hi, Val. My name is Melissa,
Hi.
and I live in Oklahoma City, and I just want to thank you so much for sharing your story with us, and thank you so much for your activism. I hope you'll come and be a part of this community more and more because I think you have some really valuable information for us.
Well, unfortunately, I am already a part of the community, the TI community, and based on my situation, I don't see that going to change anytime soon in the future.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you. Over the years, what have you seen get better? What sort of things have you seen improve as far as public awareness? And what sort of things do you think that we as a community can do to further our cause?
I think speaking more about it publicly brings awareness because more people are, realizing what's happening. As I said to Ella earlier, those who are in positions of power who are coming out now as whistleblowers, they're helping the community a lot. And it's still a situation where you still have to deal with it on an individual basis because it's happening to you personally. So you have to, at the same time, find ways to deal with the situation that you're in.
Right, I understand. And I thought I heard you say earlier that, our help really needs to come from the other side of this equation, and I happen to agree with you on that if I got that part right. Because I say that, the concentration camp survivors didn't rescue themselves. And in many ways, we are in a concentration camp, an electromagnetic concentration camp, and like we have the SS after us. So, and they are determined to destroy our lives. So,
I may be a bit of a pessimist in regards to that, but I'm one of those TIs who believe, and the evidence is also out there, that this is a government program. And so we're dealing with a giant here, Goliath here. So, if this is a government program and there's absolute proof that it is, then, we're in for like a really big fight.
Yes.
Or lives, because they're carrying out crimes against us, really. In my situation, which I wanted to divert to a bit, because I believe 100% that this is coming from the government, that it is being directed at me personally, I have taken a number of steps to protect myself and to go after the people who I believe are responsible for carrying out certain actions against me. And some of the things that I've done is that, I've, and it's all listed on my blog, I've taken them to court, whether within Canada or outside of Canada. And, I've done a number of things. I didn't just sit down and take it.
Right. And can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, in my case, I believe a lot of the targeting of me is coming from the police and the intelligence agency within that country, and I have a lot of proof of that. And I have taken some actions against them. I have gone as far as the International Criminal Court in regards to taking some Canadian government officials before the court, because in my case it's a very organized attack against me, and it violates certain international laws as far as me as an individual and as a human being. So because I know that I'm being blocked in Canada as far as their judicial system and their courts and all of that I'm not going to get anywhere, and that I have this protection outside of this country, or should have this protection outside of this country, that's where I've taken them. So I've filed a petition with the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights in regards to some of the things that I've been through and I'm still going through. And as I mentioned, I also taken some Canadian government officials before the International Criminal Court. I don't think any individual in this country has ever done that, but I did that. I started the process, and I'm still in that process right now.
Oh, good for you. Thank you. I mean, I think we all owe you a debt of gratitude because, you know, when one person takes that first step, it helps all of us. Do you have friends overseas? Do you have friends in other countries besides Canada that you are in touch with that are also experiencing the same phenomenon?
No, I'm pretty much the same as most TIs. I get a lot of my information from the internet and people who are out there, you know, who is putting this information out. Of course, there's people like Ella who have this, you know, this podcast here that people can come on and, you know, express their views or share other information about, you know, the TI community or what's happening as far as the government's role in it, that type of thing. But you know, the TI really doesn't have quote unquote friends, you know, because part of the program is to isolate the target.
Right.
That's one of the campaigns that they carry out against the TI. Right. If they had friends, then they wouldn't so much be in that situation, right?
Well, that's absolutely correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you know, and they lie to our friends and do whatever they can to, you know, destroy friendships. And, you know, it's sad what they do. So I was just curious.
So much in terms of personal friendship. Yes, I do have personal friends. I'm talking in terms of the kind of friends that can intervene and make things happen and make things happen. No. Because, you know, no one believes us. No one believes that these things are happening because it's supposed to be something that's secret. It's a secret.
Well, you know, I think they do. I think if personally, I know people that, you know, are in those intelligence agencies that do know. And they are not allowed to tell you that they know. They are not allowed to talk about it. And, of course, the police know what's going on. They're under non-disclosure agreements, so to speak, gag orders, kind of like if you work for this agency, you're not allowed to talk about this. But, you know, I've gotten some good advice from some, you know, ex-NSA agents, FBI agents. And, you know, their advice across the board is, you know, lay low and be quiet, but that only goes so far. And that's for me because I'm an activist and we're all a little different. You know, I wanted to ask you something really, really quickly. What were the first things you noticed that made you realize something was off? Like before you even realized you were targeted and what it was, what were some of the little tiny things that you first noticed looking back now?
Well, there were not little things per se because I was doing things in a big way. I was going after some people in high positions of power, and they were not sitting back and take it. You know, so it wasn't, you know, little things per se. It's me doing things that upset some people, and they went after me. And the way that they went after me was to get people to carry out certain actions against me. And that's how the gang stalking started.
I see. So they just started it sort of all at once with you?
Yeah, it started that way. Once I had taken certain steps, and then they retaliated and, you know, carry out certain actions against me. And it was obvious that it was coming from them because I was very open in how I went against them. You know, I was doing things that they didn't like. I was, you know, as I mentioned earlier in the program, I was, you know, it first started when I was in my co-op, and I was going after them. I was having them audited. I was in commercial court all the time with them. I was, you know, going after the local city officials. That was, you know, backing them and, just going along with what they were doing because they were also part of it. And they thought I was a troublemaker. And so they organized these actions against me, and it started from there.
Let's see. Well, I hope that your lawsuits are successful, and I hope you keep us updated on those. Did I understand you have a petition? You also have a
I had filed a petition last year with the ICHR, the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights, and that's actually my second petition that I filed with them against this country to take precautionary measures against the Canadian government for carrying out certain human rights abuse against me. But the way that I'm being blocked, whether within this country or outside of this country, I know that the government is also influencing, people outside of this country as far as assisting me.
Right. That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
So, well, just thank you. Thank you for answering my questions. I just wish you the best of luck, and I hope that you'll be more and more vocal in our community.
I will try.
I'd love to hear some more. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, my phone may die here, so if I get disconnected, I'll call right back in. So, Minnesota, I'm going to...
Uh-oh. Are you still there, Val?
Is that for me?
Yes, Ella got disconnected. So she was just saying that her phone was about to die and she got disconnected. So, well, I'll just carry on. I'm reading. Are you in the chat room right now, Val?
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay. Well, I'm wondering if maybe anybody in the chat room has any questions for you. So you moved to the United States. Did your gang stalking decrease at that point, or did it decrease at first and then go back to what it was in Canada?
No, I think the gentleman earlier mentioned that he was living in Vancouver, and then he was experiencing that, and then he moved to the States. That was not me.
Oh, no. Okay, that was not you. No, I thought you had moved from the States. I mean, from Canada to the States.
Oh, it was,
no, I know Dr. Matthew did, but...
yes, Matthew, yes.
Right. I thought you had also moved to the States, but you
No,
had not.
I've never lived in the States. I've only visited your country.
Oh, okay. I wondered if that was something you shared in common with Dr. Matthew.
No.
Okay. I see. So the people that you initially went after, what happened with that? Did anything happen with that?
It's on corruption. Nothing. They're still doing what they've been doing, Nothing. They're still corrupt.
Do you experience the break-ins like other targets? Did they break into your place?
I personally believe that they had a camera set up in my home, that they have, they do go into your home when you're not there. In my case, I don't just lock my door. I try to use some kind of, some little thing to, put something there so that if they open the lock, I can tell that they go in because the lock is not sufficient enough to keep them out,
Right.
So when I say they, I'm always talking about the authorities, not some random private individuals, because if someone does that, you can charge them, right? If an individual goes into your home, you can charge them. That's like they're going to be facing like 25 years in jail. So who wants to do that? No, I'm talking, this is coming from the authorities, okay? Like CSIS. They have means to go into your home when you're not there. So your regular lock can keep species out. So in my case, I try to, find little clever ways to, if someone do go into my home, I have the evidence.
Good. That's very good. Have you had any brushes with the psychiatric community? Have they tried to funnel you into that venue? Have they?
No, I haven't. No, I haven't.
Well, that's good, and I'm not implying anything. I just know, targets often.
No, I
that's often
understand
part
where
of the
you're coming from.
program.
I think one of the reasons why that hasn't happened is because, I don't consider myself to be powerless. I think the pen is mightier than the sword, and as I was saying earlier in the interview, I am not shy about, if they come after me, I come after them, and I use my pen because I'm a writer and I'm a blogger, and I will name names and I will put their face up and I will expose them, and they don't want that. So,
right.
They think twice about, coming after me in certain ways.
Right. Do you experience any of the health effects from electromagnetic weapons, the directed energy weapons?
Yeah, I've had certain physical symptoms which I don't necessarily want to mention publicly. Okay. And that made me think that there's a lot of things going on with the way that they carry out their attacks against me. But these are things that I try to deal with on my own. I recognize my symptoms, and then I would compare it to what others are saying, TIs are saying, and it's quite similar. So, yeah, in that case, I just try to stay one step ahead of them and try to be healthy, be very careful with my diet, and, because these things are intended to harm you physically and in other ways. So I try to counter that.
Yes, good.
Yes, we try to counter that with a good diet. But I do want to mention, in my case, I have animals living with me, so I'm also concerned about them and the effect on them, not just on me as a human being. I can protect myself as much as I can, but in a lot of ways they're more vulnerable because they're small animals.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And we know that's, these people, heartless people do that. They target, they'll stop at nothing. And it's just
so whatever harm they're doing to me, whether it's their microwave technology or, their direct energy weapons that they're using against me, and I believe that they've used pretty much everything on me, I'm more concerned in regards to the effect on my animals mainly. Because
have you seen your animals suffer? I know we've had some targets.
They've suffered in different ways. They've suffered in different ways. For instance, stress. One of the tactics that my enemies use against me is try to force me to be homeless. And they would use people around me to cause me to, lose my home, using different tactics, whatever. And I later found out that homelessness is one of the tactics that is used against TIs. But that's one of the tactics they've been using against me for years. And of course, with an animal, that's also stressful on them because, I have cats, not dogs. So they don't, they're like, it's stressful on them.
Yeah, yeah. May I ask how, so I was having this discussion today with another targeted individual here in the United States, and we were talking about the difference between targets that are allowed to work, and I use that terminology because many of us are not even allowed to work. And she had just been let go from a fourth job, like 2 months. She's had 4 jobs. It's been ridiculous, and it's a it's a simple job, and there's just no reason. But for $20 or $100, you can go into a profession like she was in, and offer to pay someone $100, and they'll fire them. Because there's plenty of other workers to replace them. So I'm curious for you, and she and I were brainstorming, because I'm also being economically hampered. I'm not allowed to work in my field. I'm not allowed to work in anything I'm good at or know about.
Yeah.
So, I'm wondering, how did you you've obviously maintained an income. How did you sustain yourself? What were some of the things you did that circumvented their attempts to economically deprive you of income?
I would say persistence, just to keep going. I realized that with TIs, they can influence your finances in many ways. If you're self-employed, they will try to block you. In my case, they try to block me online, they block me online, offline. If you're working for an employer, they influence your job in that way. They can get you fired. Their goal is to destroy you, basically. And one of the key ways that they do that is to sabotage you financially.
Yeah.
But in my case, God has blessed me with different talents, so I try to fall back on them. One of them is to write. The other one, at one point, I was, and I can still do it. I will do hair, braiding hair, whatever it is that you can find to do to survive. Because their goal is to destroy you. And of course, if you block someone financially, you're destroying them in a way.
Well, absolutely. And they do it a little bit at a time. So how did you manage to, because you're a blogger, so you are online, how did they allow you to do that, or how did you get around their attempts to block your internet postings?
I did not. For instance, with my blog, I still have a problem to this very day getting advertisers to come on my blog and advertise on my blog. The first time I tried that with Google Sense, Google blocked me, and Google has never approved me to have Google ads on my blog. And I've also tried with other companies, but I think one of the obstacles in regards to that is because of the content of my blog. I'm saying some pretty deep things. I'm talking about the government. So that kind of scare away a lot of businesses. So there's nothing I can do about this. I will not stop doing what I'm doing. I like what I'm doing. Even if no one comes and put their advertisement on my blog, I will still find ways to survive. But I know with other bloggers, they've become financially very successful because they're able to have advertisers on their blogs.
Right. Have you tried ClickBank?
I've tried so many of them, and I always get a response. Unfortunately, we don't think your blog content is suitable for us.
Oh, but so the reason ClickBank is awesome is because it's an affiliate, and because they don't look at your blog. You pick what advertisements you want to promote, and then you just get the link and you paste it within your blog. And the other thing you can do is you can turn your blog into an ebook for free and then sell that ebook on Amazon. Did you know that?
I suppose I could, but I have other books, so yeah.
Well, I'm just saying, I might buy your book, so that's
well,
a
you know what?
process.
My books right now, I have books on sale at Selz.com. So if you Google ValerieGuillaume.Selz, SELZ.com, you'll see my books there, so you can go there and purchase them. But as for my blog, it will be wonderful if I can get advertisers. As far as turning it into an ebook and putting it on Amazon and those places, that's something to think about.
Well, it is, and it's free. So I would suggest you go to ClickBank, ClickBank. It's
Okay.
completely free, and you get paid for the products you sell. So, for instance, you go through the products, and they have a lot of them. So if you pick, like, they're mostly ebooks that you can download, but they have some products. So if you pick, like, organic superfood, you get a link, you paste it within your blog. If somebody clicks on that and then buys that product, you get half the profits. And they never even visit your blog. They don't care what your blog is. All they care about is selling a product. They absolutely do not care what your blog says. So ClickBank is probably a really good avenue for you to make money. And again, turning your blog into a book would be completely awesome. I'm glad you have books out there. So thanks for the info, because that gives me hope that you're able to sustain yourself financially, because, boy, that has been, that's been an issue within all of the TI communities. So.
Definitely. I'm wondering where Ella is at this point.
I think she came back.
I was able to come back. It's been increasingly more difficult, as you guys know, to first my phone went dead. 2 phones. I don't understand that. 2 separate phones. And then, oh no, don't say that. Oh no. I finally got the computer up going. And well, one of my computers is completely, I don't know what's happening. It's doing updates. I can't even use it. So I borrowed my daughter's computer, but now it's about to do updates and shut down. So we'll just keep going. Let me get to the next question. We'll go as long as we can. And I know you guys, I have a radio show on Friday, and it's been very difficult to get that show going. I've had a lot of issues with it, but on a good day, there's 400,000 listeners. So I know why they're doing it. I know why they're making it difficult. Yeah, but I think that's, I'm going to still try to do it as long as the producers, don't get too frustrated. I know they were very frustrated last Friday. They thought there was something wrong with, the guest I had. They thought that he was not competent and didn't know how to use Skype and all these different things. And tomorrow I'm going to be interviewing Carrie Cassidy. I know there's a lot of fans. Yeah, she's a neat lady. So, okay, so I'm going to go ahead and you, Melissa, sorry about that. I'm like right now went through a lot of, Florida. Let's see if I can find him. This computer's about to go down too. Somehow I get these updates and it forces my computer to shut down. Or I get disconnected from the server. Here we go. Okay.
Wow.
Southwest. Yeah, it's unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. My whole show last week never even started. I just had to walk away from it. I had to put in another. Yeah. Okay. Hi, Florida.
Hi there. How are you?
I'm okay. We're getting through it. Somehow we're getting through this podcast too. So it's nice to hear your voice. Long time no hear.
Yeah. Where's Ella?
This is Ella.
This is Ella. It doesn't sound like you. My God. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I have a cold. I've had this ongoing flu, so my voice probably sounds a little more gravelly or something. Yeah, it's me.
You sound sexy.
So just keep on getting sick and have a sore throat, huh?
Yeah. Hey, your husband will love it.
All right. Thanks, Cannon.
Yeah. First off, thanks to the caller. I didn't catch her name.
Val.
Late.
I think he's talking about the last caller.
No.
Melissa.
About the guest. The guest.
Yeah, Val.
Oh, the guest. Valerie Guillaume. Oh, Val
Hi,
Guillaume.
Valerie.
Hi.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for taking time out to come on the show. I've been very interested. I haven't been on in quite a while. I've been busy doing other things, and I decided to pop on today, and lo and behold, get a TI from Ontario, and I'm actually American, but I'm in Ontario as well. I'm in the Ottawa area.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
You currently live in Ottawa?
Yeah, I've been staying in Ottawa for a while. I was actually in the Toronto area for a while as well.
I see. Okay.
I'm American, but I was working in Europe, and the targeting started, the heavy-duty stuff started while I was in Europe, and I basically bounced around to 5 different countries trying to get away from them, and it never worked. And I was just so distraught and did not know what was going on. But one thing that was absolutely clear to me is, and you hit it on the head earlier, it's just too organized and large for it to be some small group doing this. You know, from my perspective, you know, I'm 100%.
Well, you know, I have to clarify that there are small groups, but the small groups are usually hired by the people in power. You know, they use people around you, and they become the group, right? They have to have access to you, so they will use whatever means of access that they can get. And in all cases, it's usually people around you.
It's all controlled by, and I'm only speaking from my perspective. From my perspective, it's controlled by the U.S. federal government, but the U.S. federal government never does anything against you. They always hire outside people, from contractors to neighbors to police to, you know, they use a wide range of different groups, organizations, and people.
Well, you know, my question is, why would the U.S. government spend time and resources to carry out these attacks against people in other countries? I don't think.
Well, I'm only talking about in my perspective. I have an idea what's going on in your perspective. I'm only speaking. That's why I preface that with mine. And when I arrived here, I had no idea what was happening. I just knew that it wasn't right. I did a very, very careful, step-by-step and deliberate attempt to find out exactly who was behind me, who was behind this stuff. And when you go out, I contacted, and I'll go through the list quickly, United States Department of Justice, the FBI, the Army Central Investigation Unit, the Air Force Investigation Unit, and the Army Inspector General, and the Department of Justice Inspector General, and 3 different congressmen. And I only got a response from one person, and that was the congressman from my district. And the only thing that he said to me is that I sent your information and they didn't respond. So the only person who said anything to me told me that the people who that he asked about it wouldn't respond. If they're unwilling,
but you're an American, right?
Sorry?
You're an American? You're born in America?
Yes, I'm American. I was born.
But in your sense, it would make sense from your perspective that it's coming from the U.S. government. So,
Right. That from my perspective, I had to narrow it down to make sure that I understood completely who was behind it, because nothing that was happening was making sense. So I deliberately picked those people step by step, one by one. I contacted them one by one to make sure that I wasn't missing any steps.
Right.
When you're unwilling to even respond to requests for you to investigate, then that tells me unequivocally that they were behind it. Plus, who else has the ability to follow me into 5 different countries to do this, you know? So
obviously, yes. But I guess my question to you would be, why do you believe that they have gone after you? Why do you what have you done? What did you what do you do? What did you do?
I heard you talking about that. I heard you talking about that earlier, and I think the only place where we our opinions depart, because I don't believe anybody has done anything wrong being this program. Now, don't get me wrong.
Not that you've done anything wrong, but
I don't think that we've done anything whatsoever to be in the program. I guess I should rephrase that, and I'll explain that briefly.
But sometimes I think they have to. Sometimes they have a reason to come after you. You know, that's what I believe. Like otherwise, I think they have to select the targets that they go after. You don't believe that?
I'm not saying that you're wrong. But give me a chance to explain where I'm coming from on it.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Please go ahead.
There's a concerted effort. The most important thing about this program is deniability. They never want to be directly connected to any of the actions against anyone because they're unlawful.
Exactly.
So they keep degrees of separation between them by using contractors, by using neighbors, by using the police force. There are lots, and sometimes there's a combination or 4 or 5 different groups against one individual, so that the victim cannot come after, say that this one person is the person who's doing this to me. In each case, they are using that as a diversionary tactic. I call it the chasing the rabbit down the hole, to keep you guessing who is behind it and keep you asking the question, why did this happen to me? And one of the favorite questions that you'll get from a perp is, why do you think they picked you? And that's a trick question, because then that makes that individual try to think of reasons, things that they may have done that would have caused someone to put them, quote, in this program, when in fact the real reason is because they have to have an alibi, number one, they have to have deniability, number two, and they also need something for you to chase so that you don't look at them. And that's the whole reason behind it. And if you don't have anything, they'll find something for you.
Find something.
In my case, that's right. That's right. They will push you into a situation where you feel that you have to defend yourself.
Can I relate an incident that happened to me just recently in regards to what you just said?
What's that?
May I relate an incident, a situation that happened to me recently in regards to what you've just said?
Please do.
Yeah. Okay. I was in a situation recently where I was confronted by a neighbor, and he was doing everything that he could to get a physical confrontation with me. And because I'm so used to this tactic that has been used against me over the years, I was, reluctant to get into a confrontation with him. And he made the comment to me, which was a threat, actually, you don't know what's coming.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So and he was saying things that other perpetrators have said before, similar words. It couldn't be a coincidence. It could not be a coincidence. Someone sent him after me, and I know where it's coming from, and whatever they told him, he seemed to know what the end result would be and the part that he would play in it.
Well,
you see what I'm saying?
Absolutely, and I agree with everything you said.
Yeah.
But I want to add one thing. His job was to make you believe that he was going to do something and that he knows something. That is
I don't. You know what? One of the things that I noticed that the people that they try to use to attack me, they always seem to have some connection with whoever, their handlers, whatever. So I noticed that he had his cell phone in his hand all the time.
Okay.
Like it's almost as if he was there to push me only so far. You see what I'm saying?
Huh? Did you want to go outside?
Yeah.
Why is that a closed?
It's all part of the psychological warfare.
Yes, it is. It is, definitely.
Probably think back at many, many, many instances where people will do things that just did not add up. Why were they doing this to me? Why are they picking on me? in each one of those cases is to put someone in front of you who is the perpetrator of the acts against you. And the thing that you go after most is the thing that they're going to use against you to push to make you believe that that is who is behind all of this. And that's all part of the psychological game. In my life, they had me believing that everything that was happening to me was because I understood what they did 9/11. And because of my little research in that, they took that and they ran with it. And for a long time, I believed that was the reason why I was in this program. But it has nothing to do with it. It has zero to do with it. It is a smoke screen. Your neighbor, the police, the ex-coworker, the spouse, every one of them are on the payroll. Every one of them are doing exactly what they're being told to do. It's diversionary tactics so that you don't look down the right rabbit hole. They keep you chasing your tail. And there's thousands, tens of thousands of TIs chasing their tails because they don't know that simple fact.
Well, there are all kind of theories out there as to why this is happening. I've come across some videos on YouTube, and there's one video that I found to be quite interesting. It's mentioning that it's people who have the God loving them. That they wanted. It has to do with the God gene, something like that.
You will find hundreds of different things. It's called casting a wide net. If they put enough disinformation out there, and that's what in each case that's what it is, disinformation. If they put enough disinformation out there, every person will be able to find something that they can connect to. And they know the things that, this is a science. This is not, we're playing checkers and we're in a chess game. This is a science. And they know exactly, they've done this to thousands of people. They know the reactions to everything. They know your personality type. They've studied completely and thoroughly. So they know what's going to set you off. They know what's most likely to get you to respond. And the name of the game is make you respond to the actions that they take against you. That's the name of the game.
That's the name of the game.
Responding to things that they do to you, and they study everything you do, and you're providing data for their supercomputer, reading everything you say, everything you think. How did you react to this particular situation? That all goes into their database, and they'll use it against the next person they target. It's all about control. And they give you things to chase to make you believe that is that, and it's not. It's a mind control program, mind control experimentation, period. And everything else is a diversionary tactic so that you don't go after the program. You can believe that or not. I really don't care, but I'm telling you the truth.
Thanks, Ken.
Yeah, I'm not, that's important. That's important. And if you do nothing else, think back over the incidents that you've gone through and how many different people did things that were really, really, really weird. And when they started. And what was really behind it. None of these people really want to do anything to you except get you to react. Has anyone tried to harm you?
Is she still there? I wonder if she got knocked off.
I'm here. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, but I'm just curious about Val. I haven't heard her. Hold on. She might have gotten kicked off. I don't see her. Yeah, it's been a rough call. I'm on my third computer, third phone. Let's see. Well, one of my other computers finally stopped updating. Now the other one started updating.
I'm writing everything down now that these things that I say and these things that I know, and I know that it puts me in increased danger because Ella, I know this. I understand this program. I understand it now from front to back, from top to bottom. I am an analyst by nature. I am.
Yeah, you seem like from what I do know about you, you have a very good analytical mind.
I'm a logical person, and I believe that everything on this planet is logical. Animals go extinct. There's a logical reason for an animal to go extinct. Maybe the climate change. Maybe it's not random. Nothing's random. The only thing that's random is rain and a few other natural things. But everything else, people are not random. And the way the planet works is not random. And what people do is it's not random. And
well, I'm trying to find. Hold on, 1 second. We lost our guest. Hold on, just a second. Val, if you're back on *8, they might have done something to her phone too. Possibly they hung her up. Huh.
I didn't know that. I didn't hear her for a while, so I don't know how much of that she heard.
Yeah, and I was jumping around on computers, so I'm trying to. So I missed. I wasn't paying close attention. I assumed she's still there. Typically, they knock me off. They don't typically knock off guests. But let's see.
Well,
sometimes they do.
When I come on these calls, something always happens. I was on a call last night. It was the first time I've been on one, and
in a while.
I now know that the entire call was switched out. The entire call.
Mm-hmm.
The entire call was. The whole thing.
Yeah, well, my calls are always tough, and don't worry, it's not you at all in this case. Let's see if I can find her. She might be at the bottom. Val, we're just hoping you come back. And now my phone's echoing. I don't see her. Well, we'll just see. So go ahead. Sue, I also unmuted you, so maybe we can just have a conversation.
Yeah, I was just waiting. No, I wanted to say to Val, one of the most basic assumptions that they're hoping that you'll hold on to is that you did something wrong and this is your punishment. But it's a completely false assumption. And most of the people that they assault or that they stalk or that they target are innocent citizens with really no retaliatory power. They're
all that
way. They're hoping that there will be no justice, no retaliation, no authority coming back from them. So they pick soft targets, and that's the main thing. I wanted to tell Val, but I guess she couldn't hear that because she's still riding on that basic assumption that somebody did something wrong, and that's why.
Well, she made it clear that it wasn't something wrong, that there was a reason for it, and that's why I told her that's why. I guess that is true in a sense, and this is the reason why everyone is in the program is in the program for one reason, and this is a very simplistic reason. They do it because they have decided through their study of that individual and that individual's situation that they can victimize that person and have very little chance of suffering consequences because of it.
Yeah, because they can get away with it. That's basically the short form of what I was saying earlier.
That is the only thing, that is the only criteria. That is the singular criteria for being a victim of non-consensual human experimentation. I hate that word, targeted individual.
Torture.
That's the only reason. I've been in the program probably from birth.
And some people
I was talking to my mother the other day. My mother.
Some of them are targeted, generationally. So you don't even have a choice when you get born into a family.
that that's going to happen to you?
I have come to the belief, and I can't prove that. Most of the things I say I can prove, but I've come to the belief that my family on my mother's side has been in this program for a long, long, long time. That my mother has spent her entire life in it, and my oldest sister was in the program, and now me, and the kids in between are being used to keep it going. And it's when you realize that type of thing, it is just really disheartening. It really is.
I know, and it's been going on for decades.
Well, if the lady's not coming back, then I'm here.
Okay. Well, I hope she comes back. I don't know if she's having some problems, because I sure know I did tonight. Yeah. Okay, well, what I'm going to do...
I was going to say. I'll mute myself again. Thank you, Ella.
Yeah, you can mute me too, Ella. Unless she comes back, I have nothing else to say.
Okay, Ken. Here's echo. Okay. Let's see if I hear the echo now. No, it's just when Ken's line was open. Okay. So *8, and we can have a conversation. Gosh, I wish she would come back. I was really enjoying her. Because I'm going to come to West Washington State. Hi, West Washington State.
Hi, this is Allie in Washington State. I tuned in late to this call this evening, but I was wondering if there's been any discussion about the postings I've been seeing about how this whistleblower from nearby me here in Seattle from a private security company is talking about how they are used to target individuals.
Will you say it one more time? I'm sorry, I was looking at the board. A whistleblower in the security. Oh, you're talking about, I know who you're talking about. Brian Coffrin, right?
Yes, I believe that's his name.
I don't know what to say. There's been a lot of questions that have arisen from him coming on to the scene. He may not be the most reliable source.
I've heard that too, but it is a great concern of us that live near and go to Seattle and those in Seattle about this whistleblower giving this information about our private securities.
Someone has some background noise. Hold on, I'm going to go ahead and end the recording, and then we'll just have an open discussion. Hold on. And hopefully Val will be able to come back.